Senator Kelly Anthon presented a bill today, and we'll get to his clip in a second. And this had to do with debanking. The concept of debanking, where let's say you have an account at a bank, your checking or savings account, or for your business or whatever, and it was a Senate State Affairs, and you then become political, or your business becomes political, or you're voicing your opinion or something, and the bank says, we don't really like having you. You're too much of a risk. You're too much of a risk for us. So we're going to cancel your account and wish you good luck. So this was a bill that was going to say that won't happen here in Idaho. I kind of want to back up a little bit here, because Bank of America, this thing came up, this subject came up, I think probably because somebody in the Trump administration had mentioned it, but this came up, and Bank of America posted this notice on X. Check this out. It says, Bank of America serves more than 70 million clients, and we welcome conservatives. And this is very specific, right? And we welcome conservatives. We would never close accounts for political reasons and don't have a political litmus test. This thing it looks like it got about, is that 12 or 17? It got millions and millions of views, millions of views, 12.4. And I don't, if you're not familiar with X, you can comment on these posts, right? They turned the comments off. The comments were on, and they started getting flooded with people, real people, saying, this is a lie. You canceled me because of X. In fact, Eric Prince, he had this here. This is a complete lie. You debanked me, my children, my stepchildren, and hell, you even debanked my ex-wife and her new husband because their account received child support payments from me. So fix yourself and clear out your illegal discriminatory banking. And you can go on and find all of these stories from people that you may well know, or at least know of online and in public as a public figure. But this is a real thing. This is a real thing. And so this morning, Senator Anthon brought this bill forward to say that this kind of thing won't happen in Idaho. And of course, where would we find the pushback on this kind of thing? From the Democrats, who are obsessed with something called hate speech. Let's watch a little bit of Senator James Rutke from Pocatello. Let's watch.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be voting against the motion, and I just want to explain the vote. This doesn't feel like respect for the free market. I do think these banks should be able to determine whether dealing with a hate or extremist group is one they want to be affiliated with. And unfortunately, under the language of this proposed statute, political activity and hate and extremist activity can be conflated into one and defended as such. If you had a Bundy who had an account and he was, because of his own activity, has now incurred a lawsuit, and the bank just didn't want to be involved in any of that and didn't appreciate the activity of the group with which he was affiliated, they would be stuck with it and be caught in the middle of whatever those legal consequences were, the litigation. They'd be caught in the middle of all that. And we can hypothesize some other groups, hate groups, that banks under this statute would be, I think, obligated to do business with, even though they're not at all comfortable. So I understand the intent, and when you use examples, of groups that help orphans and widows, then yeah, sure, I can agree with that. Their political activities or their religious views shouldn't be discriminated against. But unfortunately, the language is broad enough that it would require banks to continue to do business with some pretty unsavory characters, and frankly, I think might put them in a situation where they're being told one thing by federal laws about who they can have accounts with, and something else by Idaho law. So it puts the banks in a weird position. So for those reasons, I'll be voting against this bill.
Wow. So much there. And let me ask you, good Senator, who is the arbiter of what is extreme or what is hate speech? I mean, there's plenty of people across Idaho who advocate for the killing of unborn children. That seems pretty extreme. Should we debank them? Or how about the maybe thousands of Idahoans who think that guns should not be carried anywhere at all? That maybe they should just be banned? That seems pretty extreme. That seems very anti-American. It's very dangerous. That's such an extremist position. So who's the one to determine which political opinions are extreme? Sure, I mean, if you're engaging in criminal activity, that might be one thing, but extreme views? Who? Tell me who. Tell me who will be the decider of what is that. Senator Taves is on that committee as well, and he had an interesting reaction.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, I just had a couple of thoughts I wanted to add here. First of all, we're talking about free market principles, which I agree with, but we're not dealing with free market institutions. These are federally regulated, heavily regulated institutions. They're federally insured. To act like there's not a connection with the government already, I think would be dishonest. So there is a direct connection. Secondly, I think, unfortunately, I think that a fair number of the members on this committee have been called extremist or hateful. So the question would be, do we really want that to be the decision of a bank to whether because they think somebody's hateful or because they think somebody's extremist, that they can take away their ability to bank and work within our society? And I think the answer is clearly, no, we do not.
Yeah, well said. And also drawing the connection between, how closely connected the banking industry is with government. I mean, it's all tied together. And so that this kind of discrimination is completely out of line. I see some comments coming in about, going to local banks and local credit unions. Hey man, I'm all for that. I am all for that. Don't don't fret for 1 second. But there definitely needs to be a line in the sand here when it comes to saying that we're not going to tolerate this kind of thing. Look, if there are discriminatory laws out there that say public spaces or public places that provide public accommodations like hotels and restaurants and that sort of thing can't discriminate by sex, race, or color or status, that you can't have segregated lunch counters for based on race or sex or anything like that, then by all means, this is perfectly reasonable to ensure that we have a civil society here, and also welcome public opinions and such. So anyway, I think that this is a fantastic bill to at least also get some Democrats on record here. The fact that these Democrats, I mean, again, this is what happens, right? With a more conservative legislature, is you start seeing the Democrats have to play defense a lot more on some of these bills. And so we've seen that over the years, and we're going to continue to see that. So just to wrap up here at the end of this session here, Senator Kelly Anthon came up to close out his argument for this bill. So let's watch a little bit of that.
I think it's pretty clear. No one's fighting the free market here. I think it's pretty clear that this committee believes in the free market. This committee understands that a bank has absolute right to make risk assessment, determine what's good for the bank in terms of a risk-based assessment. But when the risk-based assessment leans over into, hey, we're going to say a risk-based assessment is, we think it's a risk to take on customer that we don't like their politics, that's a risk. That's not the risk-based assessment that we like dealing in the market. We're not gonna tolerate it, to be honest with you. We're not gonna tolerate that in Idaho. And to say it's not happened, senators, try me. Give me a try. Indigenous Advance, Lance Wallnow, the Ruth Institute, Core Issues Trust, Sam Brownback, Timothy Tu, Virginia Christian Alliance, Zulfat Suara. I can keep going. I've got a list. This is only a quarter of it. It's going on in the United States. It's not going to go in Idaho, if I have anything to do with it. I'm asking you to send this to 14th order so we can work on it. And I'm hoping that you'll support it as we go to the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, there we go. Very good, excellent. And we're seeing some comments in the chat here. What is it? Idaho Central Credit Union in Twin Falls made news last year, dropping accounts for 2A supporters. They didn't want people buying guns or ammo, right? So it happens, man. It's happening, and it shouldn't. It should not happen. I mean, it's ridiculous. And to think that, I mean, that's the point. I mean, like, we need bills that define what a gender is. We need bills that define what marriage is. We need bills that define what a human is. Like, come on. This is all common sense. This is how far we've fallen. The left has had their grip, had a vice around our society for so long that we are just like, we need a bill that says there's only two genders. We need a bill that says a boy can't go into a girl's bathroom. Like, that is how far we've fallen, that we have to enact these laws. It's absolutely insane, absolutely insane. But yet here we are. I mean, people will look back 100 years from now and go, what is that? Why do we need that on the books? That boys can't go in girls' bathrooms? Why is that on the books? And they'll look to repeal things and all that. And then they'll be like you and me in our deathbeds. No, don't do it. 100 years from now, they're going to do it again. It's going to be worse. Oh, my goodness. Anyway. All right. I think Brian Allman is with us. Brian, come in here and save me, my friend. Good to see you. Good to see you yesterday in person. It was good to see you for a bit. I wanted to get your take on this transparency bill with the debanking. I didn't expect to see this come out so strong so early in Idaho, but what's your take on this?
Oh, that's good to see you too, Matt. A similar bill to that went through, I think, last year and possibly the year before, but it didn't, got stuck at some part of the process, as they often do. And it's one of those things where people say, well, it's not happening, so why do we need a bill? And you kind of heard both in Senator Ruchti's debate. It's not happening, but if it were, it's probably a good thing to be going after those, well, I forget what the word he used.
Hate groups, extremists,
bad people, essentially.
And
it's been interesting to see. You talk about it's odd that we need a law for this. We need a law to say how many genders there are. We need a law to say that banks can't, kick someone out over their political views. It seems like in the past, that would either not have come up, or you could have just gone to another bank. But now you have these nationwide campaigns that if you say the wrong thing, if you support the wrong political candidate, if you donate to the wrong group, then you can find yourself completely cut out of the entire financial system. I'm thinking about Andrew Torba, the guy who founded Gab, an alternative social media platform. He and his company got completely debanked from all the payment processors and all the banks. They're still finding a way to keep going, but I imagine the only reason they didn't go after Elon Musk is he just has too much money. If they debank him, then he'll just start his own bank or something. He's he's too big to topple.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. I'm looking in the chat here, and someone says, what is it? Tunnel Lord. Anyway, the debanking bill violates the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. I mean, I don't know. We'll have to look at that. I think like I said, there's a point in all of this where you can say, well, certain actions violate the Constitution. Why don't we just enforce the Constitution? That's been the argument forever. I mean, the point is that we have, and that's why I feel like our organization is really good. We're looking for people that have the same values, that have common sense values, that will just interpret the Constitution. So that way we don't need these types of laws, because, if you had people in these positions of power that can just say, look, this is already an issue, or this was already taken care of, but for some reason we continue have to refine and refine. I mean, this again, we're talking about laws that say boys can't go into a girl's bathroom. Like, I mean, this is a longer conversation, Brian, about where we are as a society, and we've touched on this before. But
what I find interesting about Senator Anthon's bill is that it includes a private cause of action, and I think it was Senator Burnt was a little bit skeptical of that. He seems skeptical of the private cause in a lot of bills, but that's exactly, I think, what we need, because if if U.S. Bank debanks an Idaho citizen, then that gives that Idaho citizen recourse in court to go after them. And that's what you need, whether it's, if they're violating the Constitution, you need some spark to go in there and start the process of holding them accountable. And I think this would do that.
yeah, yep, I think so.